Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and I wanted to make a brief video about what's going on with Xbox. So, if you haven't been paying attention, yesterday they shuttered or closed down four different studios that are part of the, I guess, Bethesda ZeniMax umbrella underneath that. And it just brings up a lot of questions, right? I mean, Xbox has had all kinds of, just getting beyond the PR issues, but PR problems, right? Sort of public facing issues in terms of how they're perceived and how they're managing their brand. Of course, with these layoffs, this ends up being about 2,000 employees, and that's terrible, right? I mean, that's sort of the first thing to think about here is people are losing their jobs, and that really sucks. Like, you hate to see that. But I wanted to talk about this from the perspective of just a gamer, right? Like, I am not a pundit, really. I mean, I've got a tiny little YouTube channel, and I like to talk about games here and there. But just as someone who's supported the Xbox brand for a long time, how do I feel about this? What does this mean for Xbox? Not spend a whole lot of time on this, but just kind of offer my 2 cents on it. So I've got the information here in front of me. The studios that were closed down were Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse Studios. And I believe it was Tango Gameworks that developed Hi-Fi Rush, which I really enjoyed. I never beat the whole thing, but I got pretty far into it. Had a good time with it. My kids really like that game a lot too. Came out of nowhere by all of the metrics put forward by Xbox. They kind of declared it a surprise hit, a great success. And now they're getting shut down here. And I'm sure, that behind the scenes, the larger Microsoft sort of CEO corporation mechanisms determined that Xbox as a division needed to trim some fat somehow, and they had a directive come down, and this is where we landed. But it just brings up a lot of questions, right? Because it seems like with Xbox, it's always one step forward, 10 steps back, like nonstop disarray for the company, and it's super frustrating as a longtime fan. When I was sort of looking at the reactions to this yesterday on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, there were a few different responses that sort of stood out for me. And one was from Destin Legary, and I completely agree with him on this. And I think he's got a lot of really good sort of Xbox commentary. He's mostly on IGN, but he's got his own channel where he sort of offers thoughts on what's going on with Xbox, if you haven't seen that. But he basically tweeted, after the studio closures today, even the diehard Xbox fans are like, for that reason, I'm out. And it's just a gif of, I think, Mark Cuban just sort of doing that kind of thing on Shark Tank or whatever. And that's the case with a lot of people. It's really hard to trust anything Xbox is doing right now. And it actually kind of brings me to sort of a larger conversation. And this is just me personally in terms of the world of gaming right now. There are very few upcoming or sort of outstanding games that I'm excited about. Not just with Xbox, but with PlayStation, other platforms. In fact, I was on Twitter yesterday talking with a friend about this. The only platform right now, honestly, that I kind of trust, and I'm using that term a little bit loosely, but is Nintendo, right? I feel like they consistently put out high quality titles. You kind of know what you're going to get from them at a somewhat regular cadence. We know now that the Switch 2 is going to come out this fiscal year based on information yesterday. So that was a weird kind of push and pull little moment there on Twitter and other places where we found out through, I guess, sort of a corporate discussion that was going on internally at Nintendo. And then they tweeted it out that, yes, the Switch 2 will come out this fiscal year. But then you had all this terrible stuff happening at Xbox. But anyway, honestly, there are not a ton of games that I'm excited about in general, overall, across the board between PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. But this just makes it that much harder to even care. Like, this tweet, after the studio closures, a lot of people are out. Like, I am not going to run out and sell my Series X or my Series S or anything like that. But I hardly ever play my Series X at this point, just being completely transparent. Like, I play Halo from time to time. There might be the odd Game Pass title here and there that drops that I just want to check out. But my Series X is gathering dust. This does not instill a lot of confidence that I'm going to have a reason to go back into it and to keep playing games and to push that power button and to see what's new on Xbox. There just isn't. Now, again, I would say for me personally, that's kind of true for PlayStation also. There's just not a lot that I'm excited about on either of these consoles right now. If I'm being honest, when it comes to Xbox specifically, the only thing that I'm excited about at all, really right now, is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And who knows what's going to happen with that, right? After all of this, you see a successful studio get shuttered for apparently no reason. It's really hard to understand the logic behind this. Who knows what's going to happen with that? It might be delayed. I would not be surprised at all if it ends up being a game that's on other platforms, that it's on PlayStation. At that point, again, it's like, why do I even have my Xbox? Is it just for Halo? Is it my Halo machine? Maybe that's all it is at this point. But Xbox as a brand, I think, is just a dumpster fire, and I think it continues to get worse. And I hate it because I've been a longtime supporter. As I mentioned earlier, I love all things Xbox. I love the controller, the UI, the platform. I like a lot of the IPs too. Gears of War, again, Halo. And that's the thing, right? You think about IPs, there's Fable and other things like that coming out, but there's not a lot really to sort of, kind of put a feather in your cap for if you're an Xbox fan, and that makes it that much harder. Elder Scrolls, when that comes out, obviously I will play that. I'm excited about that, but who knows when that's going to be? That's probably 3 years down the road, if not longer, right at this point. So this really kind of blows. I mean, I don't know what it means for the future of Xbox. I hate it. Again, I'm not going to be out on the Xbox brand altogether, but Xbox has not given me a whole lot of reason to hang on to my console, if I'm being honest, or to turn it on and play anything. And it really just kind of sucks. Now, there has been a conversation too about Phil Spencer, and I do not pretend to know, again, the things going on behind the scenes at the corporate level in terms of what he may have been directed to do, how much input he had on whether or not to close the studio. But when it comes down to it, he's been the president of Xbox now for 10 years, I think, something like that, since 2014. And it has had essentially nothing but trouble. Now, Game Pass, I think, has been mostly a hit, but if you look at the metrics there too, is it really making any money for Xbox? And that's the thing that Microsoft really cares about. So does he need to go? I don't know. But if you sort of use the argument of the buck stops with the president of that area, Xbox, he has not done well, right? It just has not been good. At this point, I don't really know what Xbox can do, right? I mean, should they shut down Game Pass and just charge regular fees for first party games that they've got coming out? I think the thing I would say there is probably not, because what do they have coming out besides Indiana Jones? There's just, I guess Hellblade's coming out soon, but I feel like now they are synonymous with Game Pass, and that's kind of their thing, and they can't get rid of it. But is it going to be the thing that drags them down in the end? I don't know, but it's terrible. I don't know what their strategy is at this point. I kind of honestly don't care. I mean, I want them to do well, but there's just nothing that's there in terms of incentive for me to want to jump into my Xbox or honestly my PlayStation. The only thing I care about at this point, again, is Indiana Jones and getting a Switch 2, which is coming soon. Like, that's all I care about as a gamer. So that's kind of where I'm at, with this whole thing. But anyway, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. So if you would, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, thanks so much for watching.